Hello and welcome to One on One on Plus TV Africa. I am Mary-Ann Okon, and today we are going to be one-on-one with the Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. It's good to have you join us, Malam.
Good to see you.
It's a pleasure. All right, so obviously everybody knows that you are running for a second term, but before you became Governor of Kaduna State, most importantly, you were the FCT Minister. And a lot of people feared you. A lot of people disliked you. Some people would call you a game changer. Some other people would say you're highly opinionated. People have different opinions of you. But through the years of being a minister of the FCT, how much experience from that has helped you while you're governor of Kaduna State?
Of course I did. Every public service experience and even private sector experience counts. For good or for bad, you learn from mistakes. You also reinforce what you have done that you think has turned out to be good. My experience as Minister of FCT certainly assisted me in many ways in the governance of Kaduna State. There are some things I did in FCT that I would not want to do in Kaduna. And there are some things that I ought to have done in FCT that I felt very, very strongly that I should do in Kaduna. And the way the nature of the public service is such that, as you correctly observed, you cannot please everyone. Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy. And that is what I see about my years in the FCT.
All right, let's talk about your preparation for the elections. It's just around the corner, although the presidentials come first. As you prepare for the polls, what gains or achievements have you garnered in your few years here in Kaduna State that you'd push forward for people to actually vote for you coming, in March? Do you think that you've done well enough to gain the people's support as you get ready for the elections?
I think we have. I think we've done very well in the very difficult circumstances in which we took over governance. Previous governments have been luckier in terms of resources. We are getting between a quarter to a third of what previous governments were getting, yet we've been able to demonstrate to the people of Kaduna State that we can do more with less. And we have focused spending on capital investments. We have tried to develop human capital. We've tried to get our public schools working. We've got our public health system on an even keel, working much better than before. And we've engaged in the development of physical infrastructure, visibly roads, water supply, electrification of rural areas. So I think that we can run on our record. We can show what we have done in 3.5 years compared to previous 16 years of PDP, in which they had much more by way of resources than we had.
Okay, so when I was walking into this premises, I saw that Kaduna is the center of learning, and I was wondering to myself, how's that? Have there been any renowned institutions that must have given rise to this? Again, how many schools have you built? You didn't talk about education; you talked about infrastructure, healthcare, and the rest of them, electricity. In terms of education, what strides have you made?
Our strategy in education is to restore the quality of public education. I'm a product of public education. And indeed, the entire top echelon of the Kaduna State government are products of public education. I went to LEA Kano here in Kaduna, Barewa College in Zaria, and Ahmadu Bello University. And what is saddening for many of us is the fact that many of these public schools have collapsed. They have been allowed to deteriorate to a point that no child of any person that is middle class goes to public schools. So we have spent considerable resources to try to restore the quality of public education. We have renovated schools. We have over 4,000 primary schools. We have over 500 secondary schools. We are renovating, upgrading them, providing them the facilities that they need.
But a lot of people, when we talk about education, we talk about infrastructure, which is a problem that I have with politicians when you talk about education. You necessarily forget the importance of updating the people who are impacting the knowledge.
I'm coming to that. But first, the schools were run down. Whatever you're going to do, unless you create the appropriate working environment, you will get suboptimal results. So the schools that we had were so totally run down. 80% of our children were sitting on bare floors for lessons. So those were basic things that we needed to start. Once we started that, we realized the second level problem. What was that? It's a congestion. Okay, when you make education free for all children and parents take you up on it, you will have overcrowding in classrooms. We have classrooms designed for 40 pupils, having over 100 pupils. So we had to embark on an aggressive reconstruction and expansion of schools on limited land. We are doing that with the resources available. Then, of course, the third level problem, which is the most important problem, is the quality of teaching. Because a good teacher can impart knowledge to a pupil even under a tree. So we felt that it was important that after getting the physical environment on a line of improvement, we needed to have teachers that could teach. And what we found when we tested teachers was quite disturbing. We found that 67%, 2 out of 3 of the teachers could not pass a primary 4 exam. So yeah, over 21,000 of them could not make the grade. And we had to take the very difficult and painful decision to let them go. We were criticized, we were abused, but we knew it was the right thing to do. We have hired over 25,000 teachers now that have been tested and certified, and we're already getting feedback from parents that their children are getting better. They are learning to speak in English. They come back home with homework and so on. We are getting positive feedback because I just went around the state and had town hall meetings all across, and I get this feedback, and it's very pleasing to me. So this is what we are doing as far as basic education is concerned, which is the foundation. But why is Kaduna called the center of learning? I think it is because Kaduna State has the highest concentration of tertiary institutions in northern Nigeria. We have over 22, the last time I counted, 22 tertiary institutions in the state. We have polytechnics, we have monotechnics, we have colleges of education, we have universities, and of course, you know, we have the highest concentration of military installations from NDA, which is a university, to Command and Staff College, Jaji, to Air Force Training Command, Air Force Institute of Technology. We have over 22 tertiary institutions in this state, and this is why we feel that we are entitled to use the motto of Center of Learning.
For Kaduna State, aside from the fact that the people are maybe mostly agrarian in nature, what have you done or your government done in the area, in the aspect of moving it a notch higher? The farming, our agriculture has gone beyond the hoe and the machete. It's gone to mechanized and even, you know, other kinds of agriculture. How has your government been able to plug into that?
Kaduna State is one of the leading agricultural states. We are the leading producer of at least 4, maybe 5 commodities. We lead in the production of tomatoes, ginger, soya beans, and maize. And we are number 2 perhaps in potatoes and sorghum and so on. So we are a leading agricultural state. In fact, we produce 22% of Nigeria's maize. Okay, I think to begin to debottleneck agriculture and get the maximum potential, you have to recognize that most of the farmers are peasant farmers. They farm 1 hectare to 2 hectares. So what can you do to support them so that they produce more, increase their yields and so on? What we have done is to ramp up extension services, support agricultural extension services, support to peasant farmers, and ease the access to fertilizer and chemicals. And that has been achieved more or less. So our peasant farmers are producing much more than before. And because they get agricultural extension support, they are producing at yields 2 or 3 times what they used to produce before. So that's at one level. The other level is also to encourage mechanized farming. And what we have done there is to work with the private sector and farmers associations to procure tractors. We've even attracted a company from India, Mahindra, to assemble tractors right here in Kaduna. They produce about 3,000 tractors per annum, and they hope to scale up to 30,000. So through hire purchase, these small farmers have access to mechanization, to tractors and other things. We're also attracting large-scale farmers that will do 100, 1,000 hectares. We are attracting those. For instance, there is a company that we provided about 3,000 hectares of land to farm potatoes in Manchok in southern Kaduna. They will produce, they will farm Irish potatoes and then process the potatoes into all kinds of products. We are encouraging that as well. And because the government has a lot of land, has a lot of forests that can be reserved and so on, we are using that to attract more investments in agriculture. But we are moving up the value chain as well to agro-industry. So for instance, for tomatoes, we have 3 companies in Kaduna that are producing tomatoes, but they are also establishing factories to process the raw tomatoes into all kinds of tomato products. One was commissioned last week. Was it last week or this week? I think this week by the Minister of Agriculture and the Governor of the Central Bank. One was commissioned. 2 are in progress, and 1 is already operational, is state-owned, Ikara Food Processing, that has been leased out to an Indian company. So we are moving up the value chain to agro-processing, and we are looking at that in virtually everywhere. The other area that we have made strides is poultry farming. We want to make Kaduna the poultry hub of Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. Until recently, it is Ibadan Water Axis that was the poultry hub of Nigeria. But with one investment of $150 million by Olam, we have gone ahead. We have the largest poultry and feed mill in sub-Saharan Africa, located here in Kaduna. And that company has also been reviving medium and small-scale poultries around Kaduna. So Kaduna is emerging as the leading producer of eggs as well as chicken in the whole country, and in fact we're exporting even to neighboring West African countries.
Lots of peasant farmers complain about the bureaucracies in, getting the help that government is offering, and sometimes they lose out. What are you doing to make sure that the process is easily accessible for these people? Because there's so many components, and it's not just for Kaduna State, several states, that it's a very difficult process to get these helps that the government is
one of the things we have focused on since we came into office is to ease the interaction between the public and the government. Everyone has my email address. Everyone can write directly and complain to me. I get messages via WhatsApp, and we act. We don't just receive the messages, we act. We've also been reorienting our public servants to understand that the purpose of public service is service. We are servants of the people, and we have to be nice to them and make life easier for them. And we exist here only to ensure that when businesses come to Kaduna, when a farmer wants to produce any agricultural product, he gets all the help from the government.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk politics. A little bit of a rift in the APC in Kaduna State, which led to the exit of Senator Shahu Sani. Now, there are allegations that you were backing a certain candidate, hence the reason why he moved away from the party. In fact, you had a preferred candidate, that's the word. What exactly happened, and why did...
Well, look, let me say that there was no rift in Kaduna State APC. There wasn't. There was a member who likes grabbing media attention, who had no base, who was totally irresponsible and an enemy of the state. That's Shahu Sani.
That's a hefty allegation.
It is.
For a man who was voted into office by his constituents, and now you're claiming he has no base.
And the constituents have realized they have made a mistake. Shahu Sani was not voted into office by his constituents. APC was voted into office on the same day Buhari was elected. It wasn't Shahu Sani. If we had a goat as the candidate on that election day, that goat will be in the Senate, okay?
You're trying to tell me that the people of Kaduna State do not necessarily care about the man who your party is fronting.
Yes.
So they can vote anybody.
In that election, okay, in the 2015 election, it was the APC hurricane and the love for Buhari that got all the National Assembly members into office here in this state. I can speak for Kaduna because I was in charge of the election, and Shahu Sani knows that it was my effort and the effort of our team that delivered him.
So if there be any members of the National Assembly who were not fit for that office, you're responsible for it.
Yeah, the party should be held responsible.
No, you are responsible for it because you're saying you kind of galvanize people to vote for those people.
Yes.
So you're responsible
because they are party members and they won primaries, and it was my duty to support them. Now let me tell you, I did not support Shahu Sani in the primaries for the Senate. I supported the incumbent then, Senator Sani Saleh, who was a retired general, a decent man, a gentleman. That's the person I supported. But somehow, among the party leaders, Shahu Sani won the primaries. And I supported him fully because as a loyal party member, whoever wins the primaries becomes the candidate of the party, and it's my duty to support him. And I supported Shahu Sani, and the APC campaign council in Kaduna State gave Shahu Sani 109.5 million 2 days to the election to pay for party agents. This was the extent of support we gave him, even though he was not my preferred candidate. The politics is
so what's the issue now?
About preference.
Because there are people who say Shahu Sani is an amazing senator. He's very outspoken. He stands for, positivity. Could it be an issue of loyalty?
Look, Shahu Sani is not an amazing senator. He's a noisy senator. He's a noisy senator. The media gives him a lot of oxygen. He has not got one bill passed through the National Assembly in 4 years. By all standards, Shahu Sani was a useless senator. But more than that, I made a statement that he's an enemy of the state. Why? Because Shahu Sani, as chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Loans, blocked a $350 million credit to Kaduna State that would have developed this state. We went through a long process with the World Bank to get this loan. It's at 1% interest, payable over 50 years. It's almost free, and it would have been used to develop and reconstruct our primary and secondary schools, our primary health centers, and would have saved lives of pregnant women dying during childbirth. Shahu Sani blocked it.
How do you know this? Did he say he blocked it?
He did. He has said it. It is not a secret. Maybe you've not been following.
What were his reasons?
Why he may have his reasons, but I'm telling you that he has blocked the loan. Whatever his reasons are, they will be tested in the elections. I'm happy that Shahu Sani left the party, okay? He has gone to another party, and we will see whether it was his name that got him elected. Because if it was his name, if it was Shahu Sani's base, he would be elected under any party platform. I have said that he got elected because his election took place the same day as General Buhari in 2015. And now that he's in another party, we will wait and see on the 16th of February whether he will get 5% of the total votes cast.
All right, let's move away from that. Let's talk about security in Kaduna State. It's been in the news. Security, safe spaces for people to move around. I mean, when I got into the state, it gave me that Calabar feel, but I know I still can't marry the fact that this place had the kind of, clashes, ethnic violence that we have been hearing of. So what exactly are you doing about that to quell the situation? Because every single time we hear of a problem in Kaduna State, it has to do with ethnic or religious crisis. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, it's most unfortunate. I mean, I grew up here, and Kaduna was what you said, that Calabar feeling, nice cosmopolitan place where everyone felt safe, where, Muslims and Christians and people from every part of Nigeria lived together as neighbors and as friends. This began to change in the 80s. And since then, we've had series of communal clashes with ethno-religious feelings. And this has gone on for 30 to 40 years. Okay, so when people say, what are you doing about it? I respond by saying that we're looking at the roots of this problem, and we're trying to attack the roots, but this is going to be a long process. When people have been doing something bad for 30 years, it's not going to be easy to change it overnight or in 4 years or even 8 years. But we have studied the situation, we have gone to the root of the problem, and we are attacking that root. Essentially, in my opinion, there are 3 problems. Okay? First, we have allowed people to kill one another and to destroy property without consequences. So anytime there is any such clash, there are commissions of inquiries, people are identified as having been the perpetrators, and they are not prosecuted. So that's one problem. So that has created a culture of impunity. Secondly, we have also inherited a governance system in which it serves the interests of a few people to divide the communities along ethnic and religious lines.
But that's what you're being accused of. I mean, it's all over the place. They're saying that you stoked the fire.
Accusation is one thing.
Well, they're saying that you were saying, you actually said that certain parts of the state was supposed to be on curfew, but that you were selective about the areas that there were other areas who were also perpetrators glaringly, but that the coup is being, imposed in selected areas, that you are part of the problem.
That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. Okay, if there is violence in an area, it's my duty to control it, and I have done that quite well, and very even-handedly, okay? Look, people can accuse. Let me tell you the problem of this state. We have people that don't even live in the state, and they pass on narratives in the media that are totally wrong.
But the Middle Belt Elders Forum,
who is Middle Belt Elders Forum? Who are these guys?
Well,
look, I'm the elected governor of this state. I was elected by 10 million people. There are guys that just call themselves something. They have never contested elections. They don't have any mandate, and you give them oxygen.
Do you have to be a governor or an elected officer to point out ills in your society? Do you have to be in that position?
You don't have to be, but you don't have to be. But you have no legitimacy because you do not represent anyone. You appointed yourself. I am the elected governor of this state. I can speak for this state because I was elected, and I have the legitimacy and the authority to do certain things. I give very little credence to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that calls himself an elder and says things when I know even in his own home, he cannot even convince his 3 wives to vote for him in an election. So please, let's be serious, and we are dealing with serious problems here.
Let's talk about the situation where you mentioned about Southern Kaduna. Now, Southern Kaduna, you have said that even if the Pope were to run with you, you would not be able to earn their votes. Why did you say that?
Look, because nobody votes a ticket because of a running mate. This is an established fact in political science.
But this is a state. But this is a state that is not just mono-religious.
Listen, there is no state in Nigeria that is mono-religious. I'm sorry. Even if you go to Imo State, where they are all Christians, they are divided between Catholics and Anglicans and other denominations.
It's still the Christian faith.
No, but they are as divided, and the issues of Catholics dominating one state or another is all over Eastern Nigeria, even though they are all Christians. Okay, so please, Nigeria is a heterogeneous country, and every state has mixes of all religions. Now, if we say that any time we are making a political decision, we have to take religion into account, we are not going to end up anywhere. This is my point.
How do you intend to unify the state with all of the divisions?
By taking religion off the table. People should be able to earn what they get. People should get appointed to positions because of their competence, capacity, and contribution, not their ethnicity. Okay? And this has been the modus operandi in this state. Everything is about religion. Everything is about ethnicity. Everything is about north, south, or central. And it is not the Kaduna I grew up in. And I want to take my state back to that time when it did not matter where you came from. If you lived in Kaduna, if you worked in Kaduna, you are a Kaduna citizen. That's what I want to do.
We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're still talking with Malam Nasir El-Rufai. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's still one-on-one, and we are speaking with the governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai. Your Excellency, the issue of a matter is in, I'm sure, the whole of Nigeria. You see them everywhere. I was just saying, in my state, Cross River, you see them everywhere in traffic, in River State. But when we got into the state yesterday, I couldn't see not one. What did your state do? What was the magic? Maybe other states' governments need to follow suit.
Yeah, well, we have Almajiris. Maybe you didn't see them. Maybe you are lucky you didn't see any yesterday, but we do have them. They have gone down in number. We have done 2 or 3 things, okay? The first was that we made primary, junior, secondary education totally and absolutely free. You don't pay anything. And with that, we now said to parents that your child must go to school. Okay, for girls, we have made junior secondary school and senior secondary school free. So for girls, you have 12 years of free education. For boys, 9 years of free education. Now, if education is free, no one has any excuse not to send his child to school. So having put that policy in place, we did a lot of advocacy, and we saw primary school enrollment move from 1.1 million to 2.1 million. Okay. The second thing we did is that we enacted a law to prohibit street hawking and begging. Okay. We have not enforced it vigorously because we don't have enough classrooms to take every child in Kaduna that wants to go to school. I've explained to you earlier that our classrooms are congested and we need to build out classrooms. And we brought in an NGO called Edu Marshal, where they are education marshals. They go around streets, and when they see a child not in school during school hours, they take the child to take them to his parents, and they preach to the parents and take him straight to school because it's free. It doesn't cost the parent anything. Okay? So this may explain why we have a lower number of Almajiris in Kaduna State than in other states in the north.
We're out of time, but quickly, I cannot finish this interview without asking about the reaction that we got on NTA about people living in body bags and, external forces. Can you explain to us quickly in a few words what you meant by that? Because I even watched the video of you re-explaining. I still didn't get the picture. What was the idea? In what context?
Look, a few weeks ago, the Chief Justice of Nigeria was suspended by the President. I believe that the suspension was right. I believe that the Chief Justice of Nigeria...
Even against the processes of the
Which
judiciary?
processes?
The NJC has a modus operandi. And
look, we can argue about that. We have debated lawyers on that, and we don't have time for that.
Great.
However, there is nowhere in the world where a Chief Justice that has admitted to what Onogian has admitted. There is nowhere in the world where a Chief Justice has the kind of money that Onogian has that he cannot explain. There is nowhere in the world that such a man will remain in office. Forget about processes, forget about technicalities. There is no civilized country that will have a Chief Justice with amounts in his bank account in excess of his salaries and allowances.
Was that the premise on which you said that?
Let me land, okay? Now, the President suspended the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and he did so lawfully on an order of a tribunal. And even without the order of the tribunal, the President, under the Interpretation Act and the Constitution, can suspend anyone that he appointed. Okay? So that's what the President did. What did the US, EU, and UK did, without talking to the government, without regard to standards that will apply in their own country, they issued coordinated statements condemning the government and linking it to the elections. What had the Chief Justice got to do with elections? But they were playing a script prepared for them by the opposition.
Why would the opposition have so much power on these governments? I mean, these are independent governments of different countries.
They are not independent governments. They are embassies and they are representatives and they have friends. I know this.
Who are answerable only to their presidents,
no,
their principal.
That's on paper. Real life friendships, influences count. And you can reach people and you can get this kind of statements out if you develop your relationship with them. Now, how can they do that? Coordinated, 3. Without asking the government, without looking. And my question is, if in the US or any EU country or the UK, the leading judge in the country is found not to have declared his assets, and he has amounts in his bank account in excess of his legitimate earnings, would he not be asked to step aside? And the answer is yes. So why are you condemning an action that is right? Why are you linking it to the elections unless if there is some agenda? Now, this is the background to this. Now, what's going on? What's going on amongst PDP circles? They are on a roll. They think that they can set up this country to believe that they are going to win the elections. And when they lose, they will now procure the sympathies of this kind of people to throw this country into crisis. And my statement was this, okay? We welcome election observers, but they are observers. We don't want anyone thinking that Nigeria is Venezuela and you can interfere with our elections or intervene by use of military force in our country. We will resist it. That's what I meant.
Well, we want to thank you very much, Your Excellency, for speaking with us. It's been an interesting 30 minutes having this mind-blowing conversation. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.